You know the name, Hercules, that image, right? The super strong guy, maybe wrestling a lion, wearing the skin, the hero of those 12 labors. He's absolutely iconic. You see him everywhere.
Absolutely. That image just sticks, doesn't it? Pure power, endurance. It really lasts.
But today, we're doing more than just looking at the muscles. We're diving deep, using the sources you've shared, into Heracles. That's his Greek name. The divine hero who the Romans called Hercules.
Yeah, and the material you gave us is great for this. We've got a really solid overview, hitting the main myths and facts, and also a more narrative source that digs into the demi-human side of it, his struggles, his triumphs.
Right. So our mission today, get past that strongman image, understand the real complexity of this guy. I mean, the divine stuff right at the start, the intense suffering he went through, and what his, frankly, wild and often brutal life tells us about being a hero, about penance, and, well, dealing with life when it feels like the gods are against you.
Exactly. We're going to peel back the layers, the myth, the cult, his worship, and his character, which is fascinatingly contradictory, sometimes terrifying. We want to see why he wasn't just strong, but why he's still so compelling.
Okay, let's just jump right into it. The beginning of Heracles' story is, well, it's chaos. Pure divine drama from before he's even born.
Oh, it really is. His origin is everything. Son of Zeus, king of the gods, right? An immortal woman, Alcmene. Zeus visited her disguised as her husband, Amphitryon. Typical Zeus.
And that immediately puts a huge target on the baby's back from Zeus's wife, Hera.
Instantly. And Hera's hatred wasn't just, standard jealousy. It was relentless, creative even. She tried to stop him being born, delayed the goddess of childbirth, Ilithyia.
Didn't a servant trick her or something?
Yeah, luckily. But Hera wasn't finished. She then tricked Zeus himself into making this oath, swearing that the next descendant of Perseus to be born would be High King.
Knowing that Eurystheus was also in line and also a Perseid descent.
Exactly. So she made Eurystheus be born prematurely.
So this other guy, Eurystheus, kind of weak and cowardly in the stories, right?
Yeah.
He gets the kingship. Not Heracles, all thanks to Hera.
All Hera. And the name itself, Heracles. There's a massive irony there, isn't there?
His original name was Alcides, after Amphitryon's father, wasn't it?
Right. But he becomes known as Heracles, which means glory of Hera or fame of Hera. It's almost cruel, tying his identity forever to the one who tormented him most.
Wow. It really underscores that whole antagonistic relationship.
It does. And his power was obvious from day one. You know that famous story of when he was just a baby? Hera sends 2 huge snakes into his crib.
And the infant, 8 months old, just grabs them and strangles them bare hands while his twin brother is, screaming in fear.
Yeah. Talk about a preview, right? Right there in the crib, this immense, almost scary power he had.
There's another story, too, isn't there? About Hera nursing him by accident.
Oh, yeah, the Milky Way story. Athena feels sorry for the baby, brings him to Hera, who doesn't realize who he is, and starts nursing him. But he sucks so hard it hurts her. She pushes him away, and her milk sprays across the sky, creates the Milky Way.
So even these early myths show he's special, marked by the gods for good and, well, mostly for bad, it seems.
Both, yeah. And it set him apart from other heroes, too. The sources point out, unlike heroes with famous tombs, there wasn't really one agreed-upon tomb for Heracles.
That's interesting. Why?
It reflects his unique status, probably. Pindar called him Eurystheus, a hero god, sort of in between, more than mortal, but not quite Olympian from the start.
So how was he worshipped then?
It was distinct. At some festivals, they'd first offer sacrifices to him as a hero, like a chthonic libation, pouring offerings on the ground. Then they'd sacrifice to him as a god on an altar. This dual thing really highlights that liminal in-between space he occupied.
Okay, so beyond the crazy birth story and baby strength, what about his actual character? It's more than just being strong, right?
Oh, much more. Strength is the foundation, obviously. Unbelievable strength. But the sources also stress his courage, his ingenuity. He was clever when he needed to be, and his pretty significant sexual appetite, apparently, with both men and women in the myths.
And we always see him with the lion skin and the club. Those are his trademarks.
Definitely. The skin from the Nemean Lion is supposed to be impenetrable, and that huge olive wood club.
You mentioned ingenuity. Where did that come in when punching wasn't enough?
Well, think about the Augean stables. 30 years of dung from thousands of cows. You can't just shovel that.
Right, so what did he do?
He rerouted 2 rivers, the Alpheos and the Pineos, to flush the whole place out. Brilliant, really. An engineering solution.
Okay, that's smart. Any others?
Wrestling Antaeus. The giant who got stronger every time he touched the earth, his mother, Gaia. Heracles realized he couldn't beat him on the ground.
So he lifted him up.
Exactly. Lifted him clean off the ground and crushed him. He used his head. He also tricked Atlas, remember, to get the golden apples.
Right. Held the sky for him. Clever. So he wasn't just muscle.
Not at all. And he was seen as a protector, too, wasn't he? Patron of gymnasia, ideal for young soldiers, the Ephes.
Yeah, someone who made the world safer, cleared out monsters.
A benefactor of mankind, definitely. But, and this is a big but, he had this incredibly volatile temper. Explosive.
Oh, yeah. The sources make that clear. He could do amazing things for his friends, like wrestling death itself to bring back Admetus's wife Alcestis, or restoring King Tyndareus to his throne. Amazing loyalty.
But if you crossed him, wow, his vengeance was terrifying. Kings like Augeas or Laomedon, who cheated him, found out the hard way. He wiped out whole families, whole cities sometimes.
Didn't he kill his music teacher as a kid?
He did! Linus hit him with a lyre just for correcting him, got him exiled for that. Shows you how quickly that temper could flare even early on.
And that ties into the psychological side, maybe. Some playwrights, like Euripides and Seneca, they hint at his madness, especially the big one later, wasn't just Hera. Maybe something in him preferred that intense, violent life, which could lead to, breakdowns or hallucinations.
It's a chilling thought, which leads us right into the absolute darkest part of his story.
This is where it gets really, really tough. Hera's masterstroke. It wasn't sending another monster at him, it was turning his own strength against him. Against his own family.
Precisely. Hera drove him into a fit of madness, and in that state, he killed his first wife, Megara, and their children.
Just slaughtered them. Some versions say Megara survived, others say she died too, but the core horror is the same. He murdered his own kids in a divinely induced rage.
Can you even imagine the guilt, the grief, waking up from that, realizing what you've done? The ultimate hero becomes the ultimate destroyer of his own family. It's devastating.
So what happens then? How does he even cope?
He seeks purification. He goes to the Oracle of Delphi, but, and here's the twist, the Oracle is essentially guided by Hera.
Of course she is. So the Oracle tells him,
serve your cousin, King Eurystheus, the guy who got the throne thanks to Hera for 10 years. Do whatever tasks Eurystheus sets for you.
And Eurystheus, being petty and scared of Heracles and likely nudged by Hera, he designs these tasks to be impossible, right? Humiliating, deadly.
Exactly. Each one was meant to kill Heracles, or at least break him.
And it was originally 10 tasks, but Eurystheus disqualified too.
Yeah, the Augean stables, because Heracles asked for payment, even though Augeas reneged, and the Lernaean Hydra, because his nephew Iolaus helped him burn the stump, so Eurystheus adds 2 more.
Making the famous 12 labors.
That's how we get to 12. And one tradition says Zeus himself promised Heracles immortality if he completed 12 labors. So these weren't just chores or monster hunts. They were this massive cosmic test, a brutal, decade-long penance. His path to cleansing his soul and maybe, just maybe, becoming a god. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Okay, let's talk about those labors. The sources list them out, usually following the Bibliotheca order. We don't need every detail of every fight, but what's fascinating is the variety, right? It wasn't all just smashing things.
Not at all. Take the first one, the Nemean Lion. Okay, that one was about brute strength, impenetrable hide. He had to strangle it. Then he wears the skin, iconic.
But then the Lernaean Hydra, chopping heads, just made more grow. He needed help. Iolaus cauterizing the necks. Teamwork, basically, even if Eurystheus was a jerk about it.
Right. Shows the limits of going it alone. And contrast that with, say, the golden hind of Artemis. Sacred deer. He couldn't just kill it.
He had to chase it for a year.
A whole year. Without harming it. Needed patience, endurance, and Artemis's permission in the end. Same with the Erymanthian boar, capture it alive. Different skills needed. Tracking, containment.
In the Augean stables, we mentioned that. Pure brains diverting rivers.
Or the Stymphalian birds. Man-eating birds. He didn't wait in fighting. Athena gave him this rattle, scared them up, then he shot them down. Using tools, using strategy.
The Cretan bull, too. Capture, not kill. Carry it back. Later Theseus kills it, interestingly.
And the mares of Diomedes. Man-eating horses. His solution. Feed their horrible master Diomedes to them. Grim but effective. Then bind their mouths.
Obtaining the belt of Hippolyta, the Amazon queen. That seems straightforward at first, but Hera stirred up trouble.
Yeah, Hera spread rumors, incited an attack, but Heracles fought his way out and got the belt. Diplomacy failed, force worked.
Then the really epic journeys start, getting the cattle of Geryon, triple-bodied giant way out west on some island.
Right, guarded by a 2-headed dog, Orthrus. He travels in the sun god, Helios's magical cup, kills the giant and the dog, herds the cattle all the way back, a massive undertaking.
Stealing the golden apples of the Hesperides. This involved finding the secret garden, right?
Yeah, Nereus, the sea god, had to tell him where it was. He freed Prometheus on the way, who gave him advice. Then the famous bit with Atlas.
Tricking Atlas into getting the apples by holding the sky, then tricking him back into taking the sky again. Pure cunning.
Absolutely. And the last one, capturing Cerberus, the Hound of Hades, from the Underworld itself.
The ultimate challenge. Descent into death's realm.
Yeah.
And he had to do it without weapon.
That's the tradition, just overpower the beast. Scared Eurystheus half to death when he brought it back.
So the labors really show everything. Strength, sure, but also brains, endurance, patience, divine help sometimes, clever tricks. They were his crucible, his purification through struggle.
Absolutely. A complete test.
And his life didn't just stop after the labors, did it? He wasn't done.
Not even close. He was the hero of his age. His adventuring continued. He sailed with the Argonauts for a while, looking for the Golden Fleece, though he left early to search for his lost companion, Hylas.
He rescued Alcestis from Thanatos, death himself. He sacked Troy the first time, long before the Trojan War, because King Laomedon broke a promise to him.
He was constantly fighting monsters and villains. Antaeus, we mentioned. Caucasus, the fire-breathing giant. Busiris, the Egyptian king who tried to sacrifice foreigners. Heracles turned the tables on him. Giants like Alcyoneus and Porphyrion during the Gigantomachy. The list goes on. He was basically ancient Greece's monster cleanup crew.
And the sources mentioned his training, too. Wrestling, archery, music. Though that ended badly with Linus.
Right. And contests. Boxing matches, drinking contests with Dionysus. He even shows up in comedy like Aristophanes the Frogs. He was everywhere in the culture.
His relationships, too, were complex and numerous after Megara. There was Omphale, the Lydian queen. He served as a slave for a time.
Yeah, that famous story where they swapped clothes. She wore the lion skin in club. He wore women's dress, a strange inversion of power.
And then Deianira. He won her by wrestling the river god Akaludu. But that marriage also ended tragically.
It did. And besides wives, the sources list countless affairs. The 50 daughters of Thespius, fathering 50 sons, supposedly in one night or over 50 nights. The Scythian half-snake woman, Echidna, whose sons founded nations. So many children attributed to him.
And the hosts are pretty clear about his relationships with men, too, right?
Yes. While interpretations can shift over time, figures like Plutarch outright said his male lovers were countless. Some were deeply significant companions.
Like Iolaus, his nephew and charioteer.
Absolutely. His most constant companion, his squire. Their bond was so strong that male couples in Thebes would swear oaths of loyalty at Iolaus's tomb.
And Hylas, the Argonaut he searched desperately for after nymphs kidnapped him.
Yes. And others like Abderus, killed by the mares of Diomedes' Heracles, founded a city, Abdera, in his memory. There's Iphitus, who he tragically killed in another fit of madness. Even suggestions of relationships with figures like Adonis or Nestor. It paints a picture of deep, complex bonds, not just casual encounters.
So a life packed with action, tragedy, quests, relationships. Just constant intensity. Which brings us to his death. Not fighting a monster, but through betrayal. Misunderstanding.
A tragic misunderstanding orchestrated years earlier by a dying enemy. It involves his third wife, Deianira, and the centaur Nessus.
Okay, refresh us on the Nessus incident.
Nessus was carrying Deianira across the river and tried to assault her. Heracles saw it and shot Nessus with one of his arrows poisoned with the Lernaean Hydra's blood from the second labor.
Oh, the poison comes back into play.
Exactly. As Nessus lay dying, he told Deianira to collect some of his blood, now mixed with the Hydra poison, claiming it was a powerful love charm. If Heracles ever strayed, she should use it on his clothing to ensure his faithfulness.
And she believed him.
She did, kept it for years. Then later, she heard rumors Heracles was interested in another woman, Iole. Feeling jealous and desperate, she remembered the charm.
Oh, no.
She smeared it on a tunic and had a servant, Lichus, deliver it to Heracles while he was preparing a sacrifice.
And when he put it on?
The Hydra poison activated. It clung to his skin, burning his flesh, causing unimaginable agony. The sources describe him roaring in pain, trying to rip it off, but tearing his own flesh away with it. In his agony, he actually hurled poor Lichus into the sea.
Horrifying. So how did he end it?
He couldn't bear the suffering. He commanded his followers to build a huge funeral pyre on Mount Oeta. He climbed onto it himself.
But no one would light it.
They were too afraid or too loyal. Finally, his friend Philoctetes, or sometimes his father Poes, agreed to do it. As a reward, Heracles gave him his legendary bow and arrows.
The ones Philoctetes later used to kill Paris in the Trojan War.
The very same. So the pyre is lit,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the crucial part. The fire burns away his mortal half, the part inherited from his mother Alcmene.
Leaving.
His immortal part inherited from Zeus.
Huh.
This part ascended to Olympus. Zeus granted him full godhood, his apotheosis.
He finally makes it. Becomes a god.
He does. And the final incredible twist. He's welcomed by the gods, even Hera. They reconcile.
Reconcile after everything she did.
That's the myth. She accepts him and even gives him her own daughter, Hebe, the goddess of youth, to be his eternal wife on Olympus. They have divine children together.
Wow. From being tormented by her, from birth, driven mad, forced through the labors, to marrying her daughter and living on Olympus. That is some character arc.
It's an extraordinary journey. Demigod, hero, sufferer, penitent, and finally immortal god, reconciled with his greatest adversary. It's powerful stuff.
And his influence didn't just stop with him becoming a god, right? People kept worshiping him.
Massively. His cult was widespread. Remember that dual worship as hero and god? That continued. Festivals like the Heraclea were celebrated in his honor across Greece.
And the Romans took to him big time as Hercules.
Huge time. He was identified with Roman emperors, seen as a model, but also identified with gods in other places. Hereshaph in Egypt, Melkart in Phoenicia. His image traveled.
Didn't it go east even?
Yeah, through Greco-Buddhist culture, you see figures like Vajrapani, a protector of the Buddha, sometimes depicted with Heracles' club and lion skin features. Shows the reach of that imagery.
And places named after him. Heraclea, lots of those. Herculaneum, near Pompeii.
The Pillars of Hercules, marching the Strait of Gibraltar, the edge of the known world. Monaco's name is linked to Heracles Monoikos, the lone dweller. Tarentum in Italy claimed him as founder. He's all over the ancient map.
People even tried to place him in history, didn't they? Like, figure out when he actually lived.
Right. The Euhemerus idea that myths are based on real people who got deified. Christian writers like Eusebius tried to sync him with biblical chronologies, putting him somewhere around the 13th century BCE.
And his name lives on today. Heracles, sports teams, even plants.
Yeah, the Heracleum genus, giant hogweed and related plants.
Huh.
Named for his size and strength, presumably. He really did, in the myths, sort of make the world safe for mankind, and his cultural footprint is just immense.
So when you really do this deep dive, using the sources, Heracles is just so much more than the strongman cliche.
Oh, completely. His story is about being trapped, between divine power and mortal limits, born into conflict because of who his father was, driven to absolute tragedy by a vengeful goddess, forced into these brutal tasks as penance, but through it all, showing this incredible resilience, this cleverness, this sheer endurance.
And he wasn't perfect. Far from it. Flawed, passionate, capable of incredible kindness and terrifying rage. A victim, yes, but also someone who made choices, who fought back. And ultimately, he overcame all that suffering, achieved immortality, found reconciliation, even.
It's a story about guilt, isn't it? And how you find redemption, maybe through struggle, through facing the impossible. It shows the sheer capacity of the spirit, human or demi-human, to keep going against overwhelming odds, even divine ones.
Thinking about everything we've covered, the divine meddling, the madness in killing his family, the sheer variety and brutality of the labors, all those complex relationships, that agonizing death and then becoming a god reconciled with Hera.
Yeah.
What part of that whole tumultuous journey really grabs you the most? What feels like the core of his enduring story?
It makes you think, doesn't it? Keep digging into these ancient stories. As we saw today, they're never simple. They're full of contradictions and layers, holding these surprisingly deep insights that somehow still speak to us.